Look at this iron pillar standing in a courtyard in Delhi. It is massive, completely exposed to the rain and sun, and has been sitting here for over 16 centuries. If you leave a bicycle outside for a year, it rusts, but this 6-ton iron column hasn't degraded at all. Scientists found that it is protected by a deliberate chemical reaction. The ancient blacksmiths used a specific mix of iron that interacts with oxygen in the air to create a microscopic protective film over the metal, sealing it away from corrosion. This level of metallurgy requires deep, intentional expertise. We know exactly who commissioned it because their name is carved right into the side: King Chandra, better known as Chandragupta II. Forging a rust-proof monument centuries before the rest of the world requires profound political stability and scientific focus. It is physical proof of a period when ancient India reached a peak of wealth and intellect, the Gupta Empire. By the 3rd century, the Kushana Empire, which had controlled the northern subcontinent, began to collapse. This left a power vacuum, with dozens of smaller kingdoms vying for control. A regional ruling family known as the Guptas stepped into that void. Through a mix of calculated political marriages by Chandragupta I and military conquest by his son Samudragupta, they absorbed those smaller kingdoms and unified the north. When you unify that much territory under one banner, the borders open up. The Guptas secured trade routes that connected Indian merchants directly to the Mediterranean, China, and Southeast Asia. Merchants began exporting high-demand goods like woven textiles, spices, and gemstones. In return, foreign capital flooded into the empire. You can see the scale of that wealth in the currency they minted. This is a solid gold Gupta coin. They produced these in huge volumes, using them to facilitate trade deals while simultaneously stamping the king's image everywhere as a display of power. With the borders secured and the treasury overflowing, the people living under the Guptas didn't have to constantly worry about invasions or starvation. They finally had the time and the resources to focus on complex ideas. The state took that wealth and actively invested it into its brightest minds. Under the rule of Chandragupta II, the palace directly funded scholars, scientists, and artists. This system supported mathematicians like Aryabhata. In his major text, the Aryabhata, he proposed that the Earth isn't stationary, but actually rotates on its own axis. He also used geometry to map out the exact mechanics behind solar and lunar eclipses, proving they were predictable physical events rather than supernatural omens. While Aryabhata studied the sky, other scholars mapped the physical world. Varahamihira wrote extensive treatises on weather patterns and structural architecture, while writers like Kalidasa composed intricate Sanskrit poetry that explored complex human emotions. In medicine, physicians systematized the practice of Ayurveda. Texts like the Charaka Samhita became detailed medical manuals, outlining everything from daily dietary habits to advanced surgical procedures. A moment of wonder. This intellectual boom extended to the physical landscape. Look at the Ajanta caves, an entire complex of temples and monasteries carved straight out of the solid rock of a steep hillside. Inside, every inch of the stone is covered in precise painted ceilings and murals that tell elaborate religious stories. A classical age occurs when breakthroughs in math, medicine, and art accelerate simultaneously across an entire society. But no political entity lasts forever. By the 6th century, weakened internal leadership and heavy invasions from groups like the Hunas in the northwest caused the empire to splinter. The centralized government dissolved. Their vast territories were carved up into smaller, competing kingdoms, and the political dominance of the Gupta dynasty disappeared. Yet, while the physical borders collapsed, their ideas did not. The mathematical formulas, astronomical models, and Ayurvedic medical texts they produced spread across trade routes, becoming building blocks for global human progress. Which brings us back to that pillar in Delhi. The empire that forged it faded away centuries ago, but the deep knowledge and creativity required to build it proved entirely immune to the passage of time.